Hi, I'm Jill Chivers.
I'm Jane Kesey.
And I'm Imogen Lamport, and we are from 16 Style Types. We wanted to talk about type dynamics, what it is and why it is the core of everything we've done here at 16 Style Types. So Jane, can you tell us a bit about what type dynamics is?
One of the big things to know about type dynamics is that you are more than just your 4 letters.
Right.
When we look at how the types actually are expressed, it's not, for example, E plus S plus T plus J, and that therefore changing one letter just changes one little component of the personality. It actually changes your core motivations, how you want to present yourself to the world, how you make your decisions, everything, and the order in which things are important to you. So, for example, Imogen and I only differ in one letter, but it totally changes how the world sees us because we have a different way we present ourselves to the external world.
Right.
And when we put together the way to discover your style, we were trying to help you use type dynamics to get at which one truly describes who you are.
Yeah. And so an example might be ESTJ or INFJ. And looking at the function stack, as they're sometimes called, or the order in which our preferences develop, assuming that they have developed relatively naturally, and that is an important assumption that goes with this, is that from childhood onwards you are allowed to be who you are, essentially. And the theory goes that our personality develops along these lines, not in a rigid way, but that there are sort of some basic developmental periods that we can say with some certainty these patterns will emerge if this 4-letter type code is correct for you. So taking ESTJ, it would assume that your dominant function, which is what your first function is called, would be thinking, and thinking in the external world. Extroverted thinking is the technical term for that. And then the next developed function, if ESTJ is correct for you, would be sensing. So you can see the 2 middle letters are being used there, but it's not any kind of sensing, it's a particular kind of sensing, and it's introverted sensing. So you see I've used the word introverted even though it isn't in the 4-letter type code. And this has to do with psychological balance. And this is the theory, and there's a formula which you don't necessarily need to know, or if you're interested you can look it up, or we might do another video on that sometime. But that gives you a sense of how within one type code that there is a sense of psychological balance that if you develop healthily will emerge, which is why we say that there's no such thing as a type and there's no such thing say as an ambivert, because a natural balance will emerge if you develop fairly naturally and healthily.
So when we think about the 4 ways that we're core motivated, people who prefer sensing as their core motivator, that dominant function, often in childhood they actually have a piece of organizing already going on. They don't like things to be out of place because that's inefficient.
Right.
The child that's a dominant intuitive is often caught up in the world of imagination or creating games for everyone to play or seeing possibilities. The dominant
reading lots of books.
Reading lots of books, right, if they're introverted.
Yeah.
The dominant thinker is all children ask why, but the dominant thinkers really want to know. And if they're extroverted thinkers, they might even be pushing the boundaries a little bit to try and find out why they're being told what to do. And the dominant feelers are sensitive from an early age, concerned about the underdog, who's being left out, or whether values are being upheld. So those are some clues. And you can spot this quite quickly in children when they're young. So sometimes thinking back to what you were like as a child is helpful in figuring it out. Because actually, the way the type codes were developed, for example, an ESTJ who tells us, well, I don't think I'm thinking as my dominant function, you can't actually be an ESTJ.
Yes.
This is how it's core to the theory of type.
Yeah, so if you were to look at what extroverted thinking is and say, no, that isn't me, we would look at another type code for you apart from ESTJ as being right for you. And how this is relevant to style types, 16 style types, is everything we've developed is based on this advanced concept of understanding type. And it is an advanced concept. I mean, we've worked with type practitioners who've been qualified who haven't been taught this and have had to learn it. And so we're kind of pulling the curtain back a little bit to let you know, and the reason we're doing that is we want you to know that we are using the most advanced elements of this theory. We believe we're using the best theory that exists to understand personality and personality development, and we're using the best of that theory in bringing this material to you. So your style type report is created on this foundation. So when you're reading through it and you might be wondering why things are the way that they are, it's because we've used this when we've written it. We've used it when we interviewed people, and we've used it in everything that we've done here. And it really gives you a sense of the complexity and the richness that psychological type has. It is the most exquisite, beautiful model of understanding people. And it's only when you look at it at a superficial level that it can be dismissed. Or people, say, it's a bit like astrology, or, no offense to those
Or you'll
who
feel
believe
like you're boxed in.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
actually a dynamic model of growth.
Yes.
And I think it's important to remember too that just because you have a T in your type, like the ESTJ has, that's a decision-making function.
Right.
It's not that you don't have any feelings.
Correct.
And I think it's really important that, and feelers also think.
Which is a relief to us,
Because all it just means is that is your decision-making function. And I think that's where it's just, how do I bring in information and learn and perceive things, and how do I make decisions and go out in the world.
Yeah.
And that's what it's telling you. It's not telling you everything about you. It's not telling you about your culture, your upbringing, your nurturing, your roles, responsibilities. It's not telling you about behaviour. There's all sorts of things you can learn to do.
Yes.
And especially as we get older. And we've got lots of life experience. Actually, this is where we often find that the people who find it hardest to determine their type are more mature, and they've got so many experiences and learned behaviours that pulling those apart for what is innate, what is easy, versus what can I do?
Yes.
What have I done? And I often think when people say, well, I don't know, like, well, at work I'm this, and at home I'm this, and I go, okay, well, let's go. Get rid of the have to, can, all those words, and just go, if I was allowed to do anything, if nobody wanted me to be anything other than I wanted to be, that's going to be telling you what your core is.
Yeah.
And this core is so useful in putting together your wardrobe, because the core of type is how we take in information, which is what shopping is all about,
Right.
and how we make decisions, which is what buying is all about.
Right.
So when we're using type dynamics, we're trying to help you access the processes that are most likely to bring you success.
And the results that we're getting is that when a woman gets the correct style type for her, it feels like coming home. There is this sense of recognition, sometimes a sense of relief, depending on the style type that you are and how much fashion advice has met those needs or not. Because we have certainly found that some style types have been underrepresented in the fashion and style advice that exists. There can be this sort of overwhelming sense of, it is actually okay to be me. We would actually go a step further and say it's not only okay to be you, it's great to be you. So what we hope with this video is we've given you a sense of some of the behind the scenes elements, some of the, machinations, the beautiful complexity that exists. We have simplified that in your style type reports. You don't need to understand how the car runs to drive it successfully, and so it is with type dynamics. But if you are interested in this, please let us know on Facebook, drop us a comment here, or send us an email. We're interested in your response to this, and if you want to know more and how it affects you as you travel down your style pathway.